for Men's London Fashion Week. Actually, this was just a couple of months before the Topshop piece, and it was a journey into his mind and his creative process essentially, and his influences. And it was, I should have put some images in here to actually show the VR experience instead of him just standing there. But again, the theatre here was quite big. You know, normally people stand there with headphones on, but you know, this was his first ready-to-wear collection. He's quite a conceptual fashion designer. So that was in menswear fashion, and it wasn't really touted, it wasn't really publicised. It was just a fact of, you know, it was a bit of a voyage of discovery, really. People would go there. They'd either discover it in one of the fashion magazines or on the London Fashion Council's website, but if not, they'd wander through menswear in Selfridges, contemporary menswear, and they might happen upon this rather unassuming box in the corner. But when you open it up, it looked like this inside, so it was soundproofed basically, so that we could have speakers in there. So we didn't need headphones. Also, he designed this helmet with the headset inside, which is totally different. So you go into the experience and you come out. It was kind of like you were transported during the experience. You know, you're wandering around Selfridges shopping, and then the next thing you know, you're in an abstract world of his mind. You know, and that kind of ability to transport people, not only in terms of a location from one place to an abstract to a real location across the world, or to the front row of a concert, but to, I don't know, evoke emotional response in people through animation and through fantastic worlds. To me, that's very important. Okay, and I mean, what we all want, essentially, is this. And I don't mean those two guys. I mean the Star Trek holodeck. That's what we all want, really, isn't it? You know. Yes, he just looked really confused. Sorry, it's just funny. But you know, it's the fact that you've got Riker there, and he's walking into a totally seamless environment, a totally seamless haptic interactive environment, where he doesn't have to do anything other than behave like a human being, and he gets the responses that he expects. And that, to me, is where we're kind of heading. That is what all this technology is kind of mounting up to. That's what everyone really wants. Now, we're still kind of using older forms of this technology, you know. When we're talking about, I'm trying to think of an example of an older form of technology we're using to do this. Okay, let's skip that. We're still using older forms of technology, really. But when you look at the fact that the Rift became so popular just because they combined mobile phones with Victorian viewers, you know, there's not saying that we have to wait for a huge leap in technology for something new to come along to change everything. You know, for example, we've got the Leap Motion here. So the Leap Motion was on Kickstarter. They had a brilliant Kickstarter video. They got funded very quickly. They were plagued with difficulties getting production. You know, they kind of just, I ordered one, and then they sent me an email saying, because it's been so long, do you actually still want it? Because it's still going to be a little while. I was like, no, I'm cancelling that order, you know. But it's found new life through the Oculus Rift. You put it onto the Oculus Rift, and you can see your hands and interact intuitively in this virtual space. And that's something which hasn't really been done before, you know. I mean, using a joypad, gamers know about joypads. Gamers know about keyboard and mouse. You know, you've got devices like the Rager Hydra, which are brand new to people. They find it really difficult to just step up to an experience, especially a marketing experience, and pick it up and know how to interact. But with the Leap Motion, all they have to do is put up their hands in front of their face. You know, it might not be perfect. It's a bit like the Kinect One, for example. It kind of freaks out quite often and does some crazy stuff. But, you know, they can see their hands in this virtual space. And I think lots of people that have worked in VR will know that when you get people trying for the first time, they're like, oh, I can't see my feet. You know, that's kind of like a big barrier to people feeling as though they're immersed in this experience. And having your hands there just really helps you feel rooted within the scene. Okay, this is another technology which is kind of coming along. WizDish was featured previously, but on the higher end, we're talking about omnidirectional treadmills, which basically track your motion and just move around accordingly, let you roam freely within a virtual world, basically. Now, I've seen a couple of Kickstarters, but I've seen one Kickstarter in particular in Australia where they've kind of set up a warehouse with tracking, So you can move around the space entirely freely, and your character, your avatar's trapped in there, and they're trying to get crowdsourced funding so you can go there and shoot your friends and play zombie games with your friends in a big warehouse running around, which sounds like fun, but you know, it's technology-wise, it does sound a little bit flaky. So, you know, stuff like omnidirectional treadmill is fine, but you know, is there a way that that we can start to utilize technology or a different understanding of technology to mean people don't have to have an infinite amount of space to run around in? I have seen something, I didn't put anything in here actually about this, but I have seen something. A VR headset which actually came about through medical applications, whereby it has electrodes in the headset, and before you move your hand, it reads your brainwaves and knows you're moving your hand. So, you know, on one hand, it just tracks you for latency. So it reduces latency because it knows where you're moving your head before you move your head. But in terms of, you know, if it knows when you're going to move your hand, it knows you could send these signals to a device without actually moving and feel as though you're doing things without actually moving. Okay, so what is next? I mean, I can't really tell you accurately, because if I did know, I'd be rich. Really, I wouldn't, you know, and I wouldn't share it with you either, to be fair. But what is next? What is next? As I said, I think in the next year or so, telepresence is going to be huge for virtual reality. For me, that's probably number one. As I said here as well, I think we're going to see a rise in kind of the leap motion, new ways of interacting with virtual reality as well. And I guess also ways of interacting socially. I don't think Facebook bought it on a whim, basically. I think that they're, you know, primarily they're a way to, I will say they're a way to, it is a way to connect people, even though most people just broadcast on Facebook. It is a way to connect people, essentially. So I think that telepresence, people being connected through virtual reality, and novel interactions are going to be quite big over the next few years. And just a final slide, this is what it all came from. Now, if you relate this to what we're using at the moment, it's not that different. I mean, I'm not a scientist, right? But I think that that's probably his gyroscope on the top there, and these are his motion, his glasses, and this was 19, I believe it was 68 or 72. So as much as we have moved on in terms of technology, we haven't moved on in terms of how to utilize that technology and our understanding of it. So I guess that is kind of my key point, really. You know, what's the next big idea? You know, how are we going to begin to change our understanding of technologies to make the next more immersive device? Okay, thank you.